My next, it's a pleasure for me to introduce Frank Ignachuck from Maynard. He's a townie. I had this discussion with somebody here, what constitutes a townie. I have my own version. But without no further ado, I'd like to introduce Frank, and we owe a debt of gratitude to Frank and the Rod and Gun Club for hosting us tonight. Frank?
Thank you, Paul. This is a low-class multimedia event. I have some things to read, some overheads to present, and some slides to show. So I will start with a presentation that was actually made by Berger Koski to the Maynard Historical Society in 1966. And those of you who were here then, if you just bear with us while I repeat it, it'll be worth listening to.
All of those of us who were here then have no memory.
No memory. Thank you, Roy. Now, possibly the first 30 years of the incorporation of the town of Maynard saw small groups of hunting and fishing enthusiasts get together for that purpose. But we have no record of this until 1902. That year, in the June 20th issue of the Maynard News, mention is made of the Maynard Gun Club holding a series of pigeon shoots on Wednesday afternoons. And for those of you interested, this is a pigeon. Nothing further is noted in the papers until 1909 that a gun club with 35 members had been organized recently with Alan Howard, John Peterson, and Robert Marsden as officers. In April 1911, a new note publicizes the fact that this club is holding its annual sports meet at Harvey Broadbent's Field on Waltham Street. Now, where was Harvey Broadbent's Field? I don't know. In any event, this club was short-lived, for in 1915 in the Maynard News reports that a new Maynard Gun Club at Brown's Pond has dug pits for traps and will be ready to shoot on April 19th. And we believe Brown's Pond was off Tremont Street?
Police officer. Tremont and King Street.
Apparently, this group enlarged its horizon, for in 1915 an article appeared in the papers and speaks of a sportsman's club to be organized, the committee being Charles Wheeler, Dr. Clifford King, and Walter Peterson. The purpose of the club was for the protection of fish and game. At a meeting at Peterson's store on Nason Street in 1915, the following officers were elected: President Charles Wheeler, Vice President C.L. King, Secretary William Collier, Treasurer Walter Peterson. The Committee on Bylaws was King, Collier, and Peterson. The paid-up members were over 50, and weekly meetings were held at Peterson's store. The club received its charter in 1916. A news note from April 9th, 1920 tells of Arthur Sullivan and Glenn Sweat liberating 4 pairs of mallard ducks in the Assabet River for the local club, and meetings are held in the high school building on Wednesday evenings. January 21st, 1921 was the date of the first annual banquet held at the Masonic Hall. The committee members for this affair were P.J. Schneer, William McGarry, Eugene Thompson, William Millington, Henry Ledyard, Joseph Marsden, George Stockwell, and Henry Slivert. 90 members and friends were present. Now, Mr. Peter Jensen, one of the venerable old-timers, wrote reminiscences in 1966, which should prove interesting for us, as he was one of the originals in 1915. Peter remembers hunting fox with all the individuals so far named. In addition, he named the following as members of the club: Alex Marsden, George Stewart, Ed Billett, Jesse Billett, Alfred Annett, Walter Annett, William Annett, and Carl Swanson. A news note in 1929 tells us of the opening of a new clubhouse at White Pond and Hudson, with 122 members listed as subscribers and shareholders. Also mentioned was the field day coming with the following committee: Frank Moran, William Brindley, George Carey, Thomas Smith, Ralph Barnes, John Moynihan, and Eugene Thompson. The property on White Pond Road in Hudson was purchased in 1928 by the club with the help of club member Oswald Drexler, former American Woolen Company agent in Maynard, who was the mortgage holder, according to Pete Jensen. Now, I mention Oswald Drexler because he owned the house that, what we know as Swat Warrell's house on Bent Ave, which is Virginia Road now. Maple Crest Dairy. Now, this is a news article. I'm going to read this because it's very hard to see. This is out of the Maynard News on July 5th, 1929. And it says, Maynard Rod and Gun Club held its first annual outing, which was open to the public this year at the Maynard White Pond Independence Day. William G. Hill of Boston and Dr. Thomas Madden, crack rifle and skeet shooters of New England, gave an exhibition of what can be done with a rifle during the afternoon. There were buses running hourly from the square to the clubhouse, and as a result, there was a large attendance throughout the day. Members of the club worked hard in conjunction with the officers of the club in making the day one of history and success. That is the start of the present Maynard Rod and Gun Club. Although, as we saw, we can trace rod and gun clubs back 99 years in the town. As a result of that club, this became the preamble of what is now the Maynard Rod and Gun Club. And I'll read it for those who can't see it that well, because this is not a good projector. We, the members of the Maynard Rod and Gun Club, Inc., in order to provide for our common interest, pursue our individual sports interest, promote goodwill, good sportsmanship, show interest in legitimate sports with rod, gun, bow, and dog, encourage obedience of the laws, assist in the restoration, maintenance, protection, and propagation of fish and game in the Commonwealth, promote or oppose such legislation which may affect our mutual interest, promote respect for the rights of farmers and property owners, instill in the minds of all sportsmen the benefits to be derived from membership in the sportsman club that is a member of the statewide organization, do hereby adopt these bylaws, rules, and regulations. So way back in 1930, before there were conservation organizations, there were rod and gun clubs that were concerned about conservation of land and property. The constitution of this club, which exists today, this same constitution, says the name of this corporation shall be the Maynard Rod and Gun Club, Inc., and shall be so advertised. The principal place of business of the association shall be in Maynard, Middlesex County, Massachusetts, and the club colors shall be orange and black, which are the Maynard colors.
School colors.
School colors. A predominant field of orange and black lettering and figures. So going from there, the following information is all gleaned from Pete Jensen's memoranda, who gathered it from the rod and gun sources and from old members. In 1932, after several meetings at the home of Oswald Drexler on Bent Ave, a set of bylaws were drawn up and the club was incorporated. This, as I say, is the present Maynard Rod and Gun Club. Up to 1936, the club had a letdown in activity, but at a reorganizational meeting in January January 4th of 1936, Carl Swanson became president, Pete Jensen secretary, Vincent Mallet treasurer. This meeting was held at the Elks Hall on Main Street. The club at that time had 42 members and $12.75 in the treasury. The United States government in 1942 issued orders that there could be no shooting events at the club grounds on White Pond on account of the ammo dump which was adjacent. Go figure. In 1943, the club moved to Parker Street into a small building near Parker Street Hall known as the Hesse Clubhouse. Coming back into Maynard, the club grew by leaps and bounds. One meeting accepted 40 new members. In 1944, Pete Jensen and Carl Swanson, representing the club, leased the White Pond Clubhouse to the non-commissioned officers of the ammunition dump. The year 1944 also saw the consummation of the lease of 26 acres of American Woolen Company filter bed land on Old Mill Road from the town of Maynard to the club. And that's the land that we're on today. Pete Jensen was appointed chairman of a committee to investigate the possibility of buying the above-mentioned land. The sewer committee, which was composed of Thomas Tierney, Robert Hatch, and Walter Denniston, was very cooperative about the matter, as was the Board of Selectmen comprising William Stockwell, Walter Cheslick, and Joseph Deneen. In 1944, the 26 acres of land were purchased from the town of Maynard and recorded in 1946. Additional land purchases through the years have increased the club property to the present 93 acres, about half in Maynard and half in Sudbury. The original ranges were built in Maynard in the area of the present ball fields off down to the east side. In 1970, new and expanded ranges were built in Sudbury, and in 1997, additional ranges were completed on the Maynard side of the property. The present clubhouse was completed in 1950, which is from here over, with a major addition to the function hall in 1977, which is this section here, over an indoor pistol range. You're sitting above an indoor pistol range. The pavilion was first built in 1984 and was rebuilt in 1996. Everything that you see here, the hall, the pavilion, the building, all handmade by the members. And I mentioned with respect a fellow named Lubin Doucette, who built the fireplaces and the artwork that you see around the building. Now, in 1950, we opened the original part of this building, and due to the efforts of Sam Mitchell, we have a documentary of that event. I'll try to stay out of the way here a little bit. First of all, this is purported to be a shot of the White Pond Clubhouse. There's some controversy as to whether it is or not, but if it is, that's Edwin Savella and Tibby Nyholm.
Yeah, that's my father.
That's right.
Everett.
Everett, right. There's some question as to whether that might be a Thanksgiving pond.
That's where I thought it was. But there were a lot of boathouses there.
Thanksgiving fun.
Stanley says Thanksgiving pond.
Stanley says Thanksgiving pond.
That's what I thought.
So in 1950, as you came in the front door, this is what the hall looked like at our grand opening of the hall. And just as a perspective, this is a picture from the early 60s. That's a falcon. And this is basically what it looks like today, the same view. But our grand opening was in 1950. This was the parking area. That's a ball field now. And down over in this area here, this is the pond where we have the fishing derbies now. But this is the clubhouse here, and down the road to the ball fields in here. And this is Warren Johnson on the left, who was the chairman of the building committee, handing the key over to Avi Salston, who was the president of the club at that point in time. This is the hall, that section of the hall, as you came in. And these are the people here for the grand opening. This is the All-America Club. You want to say something?
Yeah, we had started the chorus just a little before that. We had a repertory of 4 songs, and we sang all 4 songs, and that's all we knew.
And all the chairs got peeled away, and we had dancing.
And the floor was made of, the floor was wood.
Concrete.
Concrete.
Concrete? Yeah. They probably put powder down
Yeah.
on that. Yeah. We knew, even in those days, the Rod and Gun Club knew how to entertain.
He took the blocks off as he
Took them off?
he took them off and walked himself down and then back up again.
Who is he?
John, who is he?
I don't know who he was. I was there.
Okay.
And if you look closely, there are Maydale bottles in there, and Hires root beer bottles, and Pabst and Budweiser.
Oh, yeah?
I'm just hoping somebody will recognize somebody that they knew from here. And there were donuts for everyone.
That's John's father, isn't it?
Well, no,
No?
no. He wasn't one of the only ones.
Oh.
Larry Clover, I recognize.
Is,
Gak, what's the other? I know Kangas at the bar.
Kangas, yeah.
I like that song. Beautiful.
Who's the guy who left the bartender role? You know him.
To the left of it, Larry Clover.
Laurie Clement. Yeah.
And this and about that era is the officers and club members. This fella over here is Stan Sofka.
Two was left with my father. Two was left.
Over here?
No, two was stands left, right there, yeah.
Yep.
And Jack McNamara is the bottom middle of glasses. That's Jackie's father.
Over here?
Right there, yeah.
Is that Danny Carew?
No, that's, he used to live at the club. Stan, who's that? You live at the club? Put the thing on it again.
Right here?
Yeah. Remember he used to live at the club, Stan, for years and years and years and years and years?
Jensen.
He lived at the club. Huh?
Jensen.
No. Remember he lived at the club, Stan, for years and years and years? In your young days. Oh, I'll take his name.
No one should recognize anybody here if they did their job right. This was a Halloween party that the club had in around that era. Can't find it. Oh, I want to go back one time. This sign here, we still have, and that's over here in the corner. That hung for a number of years here in the hall.
Right in the middle, Jack Connon.
Politician.
Jack Connon, right in the middle. You know, front row. That's Jack Connon. And way to the right is Swanson. Was it Cal Swanson?
Yeah,
You there?
Cal.
I have all these pictures in an album, which, as I mentioned,
Oh, and Frank Catola's right in the middle, right above Jeff Hannon.
oh, where am I? Right,
Just above to the right, that's Frank Catola.
right here?
No, to the right there, yeah.
All of these are in this
Oh, wow.
album that was presented to us by Sam Mitchell, right,
Wow.
as it took place, so I'll put this out later on.
They just didn't put any names in it.
There's Reno Salo, second
No,
from
no.
the left, second on the row. Second on the left, Reno Salo.
Right here?
No, middle row, right there, yeah. Reno Salo. And Lou Hankins, right to the left of Frank Catola. Right there. With a Johnny Lou Hankins, Johnny Lou Hankins. That's Bruce Face's son. And Pete Jensen's top right beside Stan Sosta. It's Pete Jensen.
We're not having luck with that one.
I'm not.
You write it on home?
Like I said, this is multimedia, so you have to bear with me a little bit. In 1996, we suffered a terrible tragedy here at the club. Our pavilion fell over. There are pictures around the corner of the original pavilion, which was built in 1984, and in 1996 it fell over. We discovered that we didn't have insurance. So we were faced with a rather large construction bill, and what I want to bring out is that we solicited donors from the community, and we asked them to contribute. And I want to mention the contributors of what was really 25% of the construction cost was paid for by donation by people that we had done business with, that they were members, people who we considered friends. So these are beams that were purchased. And these are the trusses that were purchased by different organizations in the town and in the neighborhood. And we thank them all for helping us to survive during that period, because we need our pavilion. We have not been without controversy in our time, and a few years ago we got into a little bit of a problem with our neighbors in Sudbury over shooting. I should mention that there is everything that we do here on this 93 acres of land is basically an Olympic sport. We got a nice comment in the Globe. Our few moments of infamy. But we lived through it. And one of the things that helped us through was we don't have them anymore, but we had a neighbor. I'll have to read this to you because it's been copied so many times, but there used to be a little place right up on 117 called Evergreen Gardens, and it always said growing since 1946. And he wrote a very nice letter to us that I want to read. And it says, "To whom it may concern, seldom it happens that one old neighbor can help another, especially since that neighbor, as a child, played on the neighbor's premises and never said thanks. I, as a young adult, hunted on their land and never said thanks for the privilege. Then, as an adult, I never thanked them for retaining their land in the face of the unbearable valuation imposed on the land in the area by forces that I could not hold back. I hope that it is not too late. But thank you, Maynard Rod and Gun, for the many years by your quiet tolerance of my growing up. Thank you for not complaining while I played, hunted, and now enjoy what little undeveloped land that is left. Even though I do not physically enjoy it, just the fact that it exists is heartening. There are those that pray for a good neighbor. I have more than my share of good neighbors, and I will work to keep them all by trying to be the good neighbor that you have been going on 44 years. That's signed by Charles Kalanian. So we always save that. It got copied so many times that it's not really legible, but we enjoy that. Now I want to. Some years ago, we began maybe politically incorrect term, but we began sportsman shows in Maynard before we ever occupied this land. And what I want to show now are, I hope, some early sportsman shows pictures. I believe that's a Park City Hall. Thank you. And this was a sportsman show that the Rod and Gun had back in the late 40s. That's now probably Louisville. Then after that, we moved to the George Washington Auditorium. Again, this is late 40s. This was a little hut that said Maynard, this says Maynard Rod and Gun Club on it on the entrance to the George Washington. If nothing else, it has some great pictures of the George Washington Auditorium. That's Brad's. Greenville's. And this, even I remember this. This is the high school, that was black with orange on it. This was some of the crowd. It was quite a large crowd that came to those events in those years.
What year was this?
This is, it has to be prior to 1950 because the hall was built in, this hall was built in 1950. So it has to be in the late 40s. And that fella up there is shooting a pistol at a balloon. Right there. And there's some of the crowd. I don't know, is that fella familiar?
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. Again, I have these pictures too, if you want to look at them closer later on to see if you recognize anybody. But there's the Maynard and Acton Oil Company over here. I think I missed the one that said stamps. Did I go by that already? Did I go back? We're going to go back here.
The next one back.
Yeah, over here, this photography by Samuel Studio over here. I'm sorry. So this is the fella shooting at the, look at the kids. Try that in high school auditorium today. Try this also. This is,
That's Danny Cotton.
Second, that's the last one there, is that,
what?
Tonga?
Yeah. Now downstairs was the famous Maynard Gymnasium that they could never play a home game.
That's downstairs?
That was the downstairs in the George Washington. That was the,
Good for basketball, isn't it?
yeah, it was great. Good thing we didn't have anybody that could jump. That was the band room when I was in. Yeah. But they had downstairs that were live animals. This again is downstairs with cages with the live animals. That's where they had all those in the
What building is this? I'm not from around this area that early.
The George Washington Auditorium is Summer Street.
Right.
There were two sections. There was the high school on the right-hand side, in the old days, the junior high on the left-hand side, and one of the pillars in the middle with the steps that go up was an auditorium before they broke it in half and made a library and a two-story building inside. So it was the George Washington Auditorium.
I didn't know that.
Why the animal cages there?
Downstairs is where they had the live animal exhibits.
Just for that one day?
Oh, yeah. Not during school. There were band members there after that. Now then after that, after this hall was built, this is this building. And you need to be standing over there and looking that way to see this. So the sportsman's shows were held here in the 50s. That says Acme Supply. There was no ceiling over the building. It was all right up to the trusses. And there's that sign that we saw before. It's over here.
I remember the looms in the cabinet. Do you still have them? They're in the cabinet behind, the looms.
I think they might be up in the attic.
Oh, we used to always be the, put the light on.
This was an exhibit that was here for Rex Corporation West Acton. I guess they made what, yarn, sewing supplies, or
I worked there.
what did they make?
Wire. They made wire and telephone cables, coaxial cables. You did? Who are you?
We'll wait.
I went to Connecticut with
I
them.
worked in the office.
When they moved to Connecticut, I
Oh,
went down there
I worked in 1953.
with 63.
53.
53.
Huh?
Bobby Salsa,
Bobby Salzman.
Gunny Johnson. You give me a while, I'll figure the other one.
And even in those days, we had entertainment. That's a snake. That's a bear.
Like you packed the place too, huh?
As you can see, the faces on the people are incredible.
You packed the place, fine.
Yeah.
You packed it.
Is that will do it. Now, that is a knife heading for that woman's forehead. I wouldn't have been there. Yep.
Yeah, I remember.
And then some other log cutting contests that took place then. Again, this is on that far side. That says Maynard Rod and Gun. Now this is an application for membership. I don't know the year. Stan, do you know the year, or John Catola, do you know the year this might be? What year that might be? It was $10 a year to join.
50s.
In the 50s? But it says, I assert that I have passed my 18th birthday. I agree to do all that is reasonable within my power to help improve our sport, to uphold the bylaws, to protect the forest against fire, to respect and guard the property rights of the farmer, to uphold the game and conservation laws, to assist our fish and conservation laws, and to assist our fish and game warden by promptly reporting violations. That was the membership application for $10. Now, at the present time, this is an interesting statistic. At the present time, there are 306 members of this club. That number is always low at the beginning of the year, and it goes up to about 400 by the end of the year. We get 5 or 10 members a month during the year. But I wanted to show you that 31% of the membership of this club is from Maynard, and 47% of all the members touch the town. In other words, they're from towns, Sudbury, Stowe, Acton, Concord, that touch Maynard. The interesting point is that 21% of our members come from down 117 in my way of saying it. Arlington, Waltham, Watertown, Belmont, Somerville, Brighton, that area. This is the closest place to Boston that someone can come out and do target shooting. Now, in terms of the life members of this club, I won't read them, but there are 2 slides that show the life members of this club. To become a life member of this club, you must have attained the age of 65 and been a member for 5 consecutive years. We have a couple here tonight, I think at least a couple. Stan Sloffer, Sam Michike, who else are life members? And they were life members before it became popular to be a life member.
Stan Sloffer still works every day out here. Go.
Right, we have a picture of Stan around the corner. Stan, you know, if Ken Olson is badge number 1 to digital, Stan Sloffer always says badge number 1 for the Rod and Gun Club. And he joined when he turned 18. Right, Stan?
that the only female you have here?
As a life member, no, that's not the only female member we have, but as a life member.
Oh, I didn't know women belonged to this club.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we have, I don't know how many, 20 or 30, more every year join. We try to be good community citizens. Being a part of this town for as long as we have, we make donations to many clubs, schools, institutions in the town. These are some of the things I just jotted down last week that we contribute to. Basically, we are, as I said, 93 acres of land, half in Maynard, half in Sudbury. So we donate to particularly youth activities. One of the programs that we started, or that was started about a year or so ago, was the Bobby Savella Youth Foundation that is growing, and we try as a club to funnel those funds to sponsor youth activities, and we'll have Dan Andrews speak about that perhaps a little bit later. But throughout this theme, a lot of what we do with Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, the Little League we have sponsored since almost they started. We have always sponsored the Little League team. They presented us last year with a plaque honoring us for all of our years of helping them. We do field days for them here. They have their outings here. The Boy Scouts do cookouts here. Police department has a golf tournament here. The fire department sponsors this bomb school that's really kind of neat because they bring out the ATF bomb squad, and they do an investigation every year on our property. Acton Stowe Police, WAVM always has their field day here. The Minuteman Art have their Thanksgiving dinner here every year. These are all donations from us. Melissa Saunier Scholarship Dance, every year since it started has been here. At some point it's going to outgrow us, and that would be a wonderful thing. That would become so large that they couldn't hold it here. But we've had that here since it started. We've always had the Fowler Middle School 8th grade dinner dance. Some people come back and have their weddings here because they used to have their 8th grade dinner dance here. And Lincoln Sudbury High School have some of their sports teams have their banquets here. Sudbury Pop Warner, the Maynard Rotary Club has their golf tournament outing here. Same with the Boys and Girls Club. Mass Wildlife we sponsor, and New England Barbecue Society has their cooking school here every year, training them to become judges at the Pig and Pepper over in Westford. So these are just some of the activities that we donate these facilities to during the course of the year.
There's a big one you didn't mention, that the McDonald's, when the motorcycle clubs come in, they're out in here.
Yeah, I have that here. That started 8 years ago, and it just started with a phone call asking if we could possibly hold the Harley owners' Ronald McDonald House cookout here. And we've done that for the last 8 years. Again, every year, it seems as though they will outgrow us, but every year we manage to squeeze them in. And I don't have the figures on how many thousands of dollars that raises for the Ronald McDonald House, but it's kind of become a real community event to watch them come through. And Steve Locke?
Typically gives them about $40,000.
About $40,000 a year that they get out of having their celebration here.
You You know, as a Maynard resident on this motorcycle, I've never heard of any problems as a crew to that thing. We do about 110 functions a year here. And I would do a Harley owners group function every week, because they are the least problem that we ever have on the property. They clean up after themselves, they police themselves. It's just a frightening mass of humanity, but they have their own security, and we have no problem with them. Just a couple other miscellaneous things in and around that time frame. With the Maynard Area Auto Club, we helped to kick off the 125th anniversary of the town with a cookout and an auto show. 96?
97? Was it 72? Was it
71.
71, way up there.
96. That was the same year the pavilion fell over, and that was coincidentally the celebration to open the pavilion at the same time. But that started off the 125th celebration.
What caused the pavilion to fall over?
Snow. The snow load on that pavilion was we had 2 storms in a row, and one of the trusses let go on the far end and tried to transfer the load to the next truss, which said, I don't need that, I got enough of my own. And it just went snap, 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 and the whole thing went absolutely straight down. There are pictures of it over on the wall, but you could walk straight across the top of it. It just went just like that. So the members rebuilt it. And everything that was 6 by 6 became 12 by 12. And that's not falling over. These are hard to see, but I did want to try to make copies of them, because every year we do have a game supper that is a sellout every year. Again, member done. We get between 180 and 200 people in here for 4 hours or so of good food.
You eat bears and alligators?
Not in my book.
Let's not go there. But it works out very well, and we never really advertise it. It's sold out by word of mouth. Now, let's go back to, every year, we have what we call our kids fishing derby, but our trout derby. We've been doing this for so long that some people are bringing their kids because their father brought them. So we're into multi-generations of kids showing up on Saturday. This is a stock pond. We hold it every April. As you see, it's father and son, mother and daughter, grandfather and grandchild, old person. That's Stan, Zofka, Dick Hudson, and Frank Marabito. For a lot of years, we have
been hosting the Maynard Area Auto Club meetings here monthly, and annually they have their auto show in June on our ball field. It's become a Maynard tradition, and something we're very proud to be in partnership with them. This is roughly what some of it looks like, but they fill the ball field with the most we ever had was 400 cars, and I remember Jack telling me that the 401st car showed up, and they said, well, you'll have to wait. And then this is the Harley Owners Group. This is a small crowd. They will fill every bit of that ball field with motorcycles. And they'll all get in. And they show up at 1 o'clock, and by 5 o'clock they're gone. Now this I just wanted to show at the end. This is our rifle and pistol range on the Maynard side, right down here by the ball field. This was built in 97, 98. This is the shooter's den that's over on the Sudbury side. This is where trap and skeet takes place. We hold a number of weddings down right at the pond, and this is a gazebo that's right down out here that looks a lot better in the summer than it does now. And this is a postcard of what the hall looked like when it was redone in 1977, 1978. When this addition was put on, it was a lot more red than it is now. But we have copies of that postcard if anybody wants to have one. Now, these guys, that's Stan, that's Kyle Yastrzemski, and that's Dan Andrews. Dan is the president of the club. I'd like to introduce Dan to come up at this time and say a couple of words, please.
Well, thank you all for coming. It's a pleasure to see so many people here with all this interest. It's great. Basically, I'd just like to say a couple of words about the Bobby Savalas Foundation thing that has generated over $4,000 to help the youth programs in the club. Some of those programs are 22, a small caliber rifle shooting that Tom Natoli has been doing for 20 years, and that's supporting that. We've done some improvements for the kids, buying them equipment, etc. And one of the things I'm real proud of this year is we're going to be able to send 2 kids to the Massachusetts Conservation Camp. That's like almost a 2-week stint. I think it's like 11 days. And that's like a $400 price tag on each kid. So that's like $800. And we're going to send 2 kids to that thing. And we're real proud of that. The support that's shown is great. They do ice fishing, derbies. We had a dance here recently, a week or so ago. The whole Savella family was here supporting that, helping, working. It was awesome. I'm in awe. And I appreciate that whole thing. And I'm sure the club does. I know the club does. And would want to continue that forever on. And I don't know what else I can say other than if you have a couple of questions, I'll try to answer them. I'm not a true Maynardite. I've only been here since '66.
Close enough.
And haven't left.
We'll accept.
Thank you.
Tell them about our open house for the youth.
Yeah, we do an open house thing that introduces the kids to archery, the 22 things, fishing, casting, boating slightly, just talked about. We really don't have a big enough fund. That's coming, we've done that last year, we're going to do that again this year, and we're not quite sure about the date. I think that's going to be sometime in June. But that will be forthcoming, and what I would like to do is if I can get an address to you folks, to at least send a copy of our newsletter to you folks, so you can see the activities that we're coming up with and what we're doing in some of those programs, and I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, you plan on having any more of those sportsman shows? How do they work out in those days?
You have to ask Stan and your dad about that.